mean invest because I did that. I hired Christy Golden, who's an incredible Star Wars and World of Warcraft author. She was my mentor. I paid her to edit what I would write, and we would talk about my failings and my successes. And it was so beneficial to become a better writer. And then after that, when you can really tap into marketing, so to speak, because you have your social, you have your website presence, your Google presence, you have your properties all polished and ready to go, or they've been picked up. And now we can actually get into publicizing it, right? And here I'll give another piece of advice, which is if you are going at it on your own and you don't have a traditional publisher that has that team with you, you need to invest in a publicist, hire a publicist. I did, and they landed me an interview with Publishers Weekly. I would have never been able to get Publishers Weekly by myself, right?
Sure.
So I think it's important to invest in professional editors, professional publicists, and it's hard to find because obviously, again, I don't want to give the advice where you just go with anyone because you never, it's hard to find the right credentials. But then beyond that, let's talk about conventions, right? Conventions is a great way to market yourself and expand your brand. And that's a whole beast in itself because the very first time I went to a convention, I remember walking around going, well, how did that author get a table? And what does that mean to have a table? So now you're talking about return on investments, right? Tables can cost anywhere from $100 to $1,000, right? Depending on the convention that you're at and the location of on the actual site that you pick. And I think it's important to remember that starting out, your return on investment probably won't be good, right? For me, it wasn't. I was shelling out money to get myself out there, betting on the fact that, you know what, even though I'm not going to make back my flight ticket, I'm not going to make back, my hotel bill and my table fee and blah, 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 my shipping fees for my books, all of these things that you really have to think about. What I'm doing is I'm not only building my own confidence by getting out there in public and talking about who I am as a writer, but I'm able to meet other writers, other professionals, maybe even get on a panel, which we could talk about too.
Right. Well, you never really know when you're going to make the connection that bumps you up to the next level.
Right.
But I can say for sure that if you're not out there, it's very unlikely to happen.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, my friend Dennis Illick, he's a photographer from Australia, and he said that he used Twitter, as a way to meet people in the U.S., which eventually did land him a job to photograph here in LA. So he was able to make a connection online. But again, it kind of depends on what you're comfortable with and what's feasible for you. For me, I wasn't comfortable reaching out on Twitter or reaching out online because, again, it doesn't fit with my personality. But I am comfortable talking to someone face to face on a one-on-one basis. And so going to a convention was perfect for me because I'm with like-minded individuals. I am able to share my energy and my perspective right there in person, and hopefully, make a good impression where I'm displaying that, hey, I'm a hard worker and I would love to collaborate with you if it opens up.
Mm-hmm. So you've been on more than 500 panels at various conventions of comics, science fiction, and pop culture. What's the secret?
Okay, so since 2013, yes, I have been on panels almost nonstop every month or every other month, which have added up over the years to just over 500 panels. And every time I still have butterflies, and so I try to tell people that are like, there's no way I could ever be a public speaker. I try to implore them to think twice because I didn't think so either. And the key is, the trick is to realize that if you share the pain and the success, the good and the bad, the what really brought you to your knees and what also lifted you up, you're going to touch someone's heart out there that's listening. And that is going to kind of ricochet back to you and show you that that's what life is about, right? Helping each other, launching each other to the next level, to the next platform, and uniting under this similar energy, if you will. So I will tell myself, like, look, it's nerve-wracking. We're all afraid of being judged. But if I go out there and I'm just honest and I'm truthful about things I failed at and succeeded at, then someone out there is bound to have gone through something similar. So I'm not alone, basically. You're not alone upstage, basically. And yeah, for panels, like you said, Bill, earlier, you really, you nailed it. You said you never know when you're going to meet that connection. And it was because I decided to keep Holder's Dominion with a female hero. I was asked to be on a panel about female heroes and how to write a female hero. And I met not only incredible program directors like Chris Jansen, who was running the programming department for Wizard World, but I met one of their special guests. They had a prominent special guest artist. His name is Rob Pryor on the panel with me. And we talked about, creativity and characters and female heroes and all of that. And what was so awesome is that after he and I were on that panel, he said, I really appreciated you sharing that you went into debt to become a writer. You risked everything. You resigned from a 5-year banking career where you had moved up to management. You invested in your dream, no matter the risk and the fear. And he said, and you just shared your heart up there with no ego. And he said, because of that, I want you to be on more panels with me. And he marched over to Chris Jansen, and because he was this prominent special guest, and he said, I don't want to do another panel without her. It was like lightning, wow. Bill. It was lightning, right? So just like you said, I had gone into debt to get there, to get to that show. I put everything on a credit card, to get myself there. I had no idea how I was going to pay this back. I had sold my card, to get some extra cash. Like I made sacrifices. I still make sacrifices.
Sure.
But the point is that just like you said, if you don't make those steps, there is no chance to get any closer to your writing dreams. But if you narrow your scope, like we said, you speak a story of truth that's calling to you, that you need to change something in the world or echo something in the world, that's magic. There's a reason for it. And because of that invitation, it just kept escalating to more and more panels for me because of that, prominent guest that said, okay, you're on stage with me every time. So it was incredible. I'm so thankful.
Fantastic.
But I've never forgotten what he said, right? Mm-hmm. He said you had no ego up there. You shared every failure, every fear. And that's important because we've all been to that panel where we're sitting there, we're hoping to get something out of it. And unfortunately, the speakers are just pontificating about, their accolades and how great they are. And I get it. You need to be proud of what you've done. But at the same time, the audience needs to hear what helps now, not what is so great, after success.
Right. One last question, Genese, although I could talk to you all night, but probably shouldn't. You got a new podcast, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, my podcast, I adore podcasts. In fact, I hosted a video game podcast called The Gamer's Dominion for the last couple of years, hosted over 300 episodes, loved doing it, interviewed all kinds of game developers and gamers and reviewed games. And when the opportunity came, my former producer who, had to go in a million other different directions, he said, you know what, Genese? You have so much experience in the world of writing. You should launch a podcast that encompasses storytelling and storytellers and everything that comes with that, not just authors, right? There's so many storytellers that I have on stage that are screenwriters and video game writers. He said, do it. So I said, okay. So I launched the Storyteller Chatcast last month. I've had 3 episodes. So far, I've had Troy Anthony Miller, who's a screenwriter. We talked all about First Man and, writing about, spaceships and action. I had Devry Walls. That episode just came out. She's a YA fantasy author. And now I'm blanking because I got nervous. Aaron Phillips. I also had Aaron Phillips, who is a voice actor and a photographer and also a musical theater, a very experienced musical theater actor. And so we were able to talk about the storytelling through music and through voice and the nuances that come with that. So I'm really privileged and honored that I'm able to spotlight the collaborators that I've collaborated with over the years. And come to think of it, Bill, you're up. So be ready. You're going to be invited on.
I would be happy to do so. Genese, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute blast. I almost never stopped smiling. Obviously, there were a few moments where I talked about tragedy where I wasn't smiling, but the rest of the time it was just such a blast. And again, that's why I think it's important to talk about the good and the bad, because it reminds us that we have to wrangle around those hard times, because not only does it make our novels better or our short stories or our screenplays. I mean, so many agents and publishers have told me they can tell when something leaps off the page when the writer is writing from that realness. Mm-hmm. And so it's so important to talk about. And I appreciate you bringing up so many valid and great points for writers.
Yeah. Let's do this again sometime.
Yes, please. And I'll see you and all of your listeners, I hope, at WriterCon.
Right. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wasn't she terrific? And guess what? Genese is going to be a guest next year at our annual writers conference, WriterCon 2019 in Oklahoma City, Labor Day weekend. Come experience the enthusiasm and knowledge of Genese Davis and many, many other speakers firsthand. You can learn more about the conference and register now at writercon.org. Register before the end of 2018 and you get a $50 discount. Terrific opportunity. I hope that you're enjoying the podcast and encourage you to send me feedback by email. Rate the podcast wherever it is you get it. Make comments. Let me know what you like and you don't like. I'm always open to email from writers. My email address is willbern@gmail.com. That's WILLBERN@gmail.com. Until next time, keep writing. And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit.